I stumbled upon filmmaking on accident. Well, I guess it was technically on purpose, but I never meant to fall in love with it. My sophomore year of high school, I was required to teach myself something over the course of a year. Initially, I thought, let's do guitar, because I had already started learning that and taking lessons, and that was something that I could just continue to teach myself instead, or I could teach myself sign language, since I had just begun to teach myself sign language. But then I heard that multiple other people were teaching themselves guitar and sign language. And me being the person that I am, I didn't want to be like anybody else. So I decided to come up with a different idea. Let's make a movie. Which, in hindsight, is so random. And to further that, I heard one other student was teaching himself filmmaking. So I thought, well, gosh, should I still do a movie? And then I realized I could, and I could make it even more unique. So I decided to make a silent film. So that's what I did. And throughout the year, I fell in love with the entire process of filmmaking. And by my junior year of high school, a year later, I was looking into film schools. And then when I graduated high school, I went to a film school in Los Angeles, New York Film Academy. I learned so much more than I could ever have fathomed learning at New York Film Academy. I'm so incredibly grateful for the education I received there, as well as the lessons I learned from my professors and peers, and just even on my own, working on sets, dealing with the whole process of filmmaking. I learned that there's so much more to filmmaking than just filmmaking. It's about teamwork and learning to make something beautiful out of barely anything. I mean, one of the most beautiful things about filmmaking, and especially about independent filmmaking, when you don't have a lot of money, you have to work with the resources you already have. And that taught me so much more than just professional filmmaking. Those are lessons I can apply every single day of my life. I learned so much about budgeting. That knowledge I have been able to apply in my everyday life. There's just so many leadership skills, social skills, life skills that I was able to take away from filmmaking. And that's why I want to make filmmaking accessible to as many people as possible, especially kids. If I had had a filmmaking mentor in high school the way that I had filmmaking mentors in college, my whole life would have changed. I would have learned not only about my passion for filmmaking earlier, but I would have learned all of these life skills before I even turned 18. So if I can do what I can to give this irreplaceable knowledge to as many kids as possible, I'm going to do it.
I remembered my school that I graduated from, they had a TV production class. They never had film classes, but then their teacher who installed the TV production program had a family emergency and never came back. And so they've just had this class that's just been sitting there that still hasn't been filled by a teacher now that I'm almost graduating. And wow. I kind of just want to go in and set up a whole film program for them and see if maybe I can do it at multiple schools. So we'll see.
Incredible. incredible.
I had the privilege of talking with, meeting, and working with Joey Travolta.
And she's going to be group, which group are you?
3.
You have to check that. Me too. She's going to be in charge of group 3.
Joey Travolta is the founder and director of Inclusion Films. And Inclusion Films has camps across the country and workshops all across California. How have you only ever asked one student to leave? He said, well, at the end of the day, they all love film and it's a world that they understand. A lot of these kids have a passion for film, so they want to do whatever they can or need to do to learn about film and to make films. The Inclusion Film Camp was one of the best experiences of my life. Not only did I receive invaluable experience teaching film, I learned so much about how to teach film to neurodivergent students. That is something I am carrying over into the film curriculum I am creating. To have the knowledge of how to alter the curriculum to teach students who are not neurotypical adds immense value to what I will be able to do as a teacher. When diversity, inclusion, and equality are finally being seen as essential in the classroom and beyond, this is my opportunity to expand my curriculum to be accessible to any and every student. Diversity and inclusion will be some of the most important aspects of what I teach.
Because I know you, this little bit of advice is you will not be perfect. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're going to make mistake after mistake, and some of the lessons will be a complete disaster, and some of them will be really great. And you just, go back and reflect and figure out what you can do better next time.
Teaching, I think the biggest misconception people have around teaching is that it is something that teachers do. We teach. You learn, I teach. That's the way it goes. It's kind of like this weird one-way street, and actually it's just the opposite. There's a dynamic that goes on in that classroom, and when that dynamic, when the teacher and student are connecting, and I mean, really as a teacher, that's your job, is to be able to zero in on every single student in the room and figure out where they are, and if they are engaged and what they're engaging with.
I think one thing that I felt like I really got from NIFA that I definitely want to blend with my own curriculum is, not letting limitations be limitations,
Right.
Having
it take you outside the box instead of put you into a box.
Right.
This is Aaron.
Hi, Aaron. This is Demi Cartwright. I'm good. How are you?
I also had the privilege of speaking with the one and only Aaron Dworkin. He is the author of The Entrepreneurial Artist and the founder of the Sphinx organization. How do you convince someone to invest in you? He said, you have to believe in yourself so much that you would invest in you. If you don't believe in yourself that much, you cannot convince someone else to invest in you. You have to convince them of the same passion that you have for what you are doing. So whether that be investing with money or hours, time, it's the same idea.
And then does the reaction or feedback from your students ever make you change what or how you teach?
All the time.
Yeah.
In fact, I usually ask for students to give me feedback. What would you like to do? What would you like to change as a regular part of the course? And that's important. Sometimes the feedback is simply their energy level. Sometimes it's verbal.
Since anyone and everybody can pick up an iPhone now and make a movie. Like when I started teaching, I was teaching on film and cutting and splicing and things like that. So over time, I had to evolve because the students came in with a lot of technical knowledge. So I think the biggest thing to remind them of constantly, whether that's through what you teach or how you teach it, is, I'm going back to like the NIFA thing, but it's about story and it's about character.
I want to start installing film programs into high schools. Eventually, I want to install film programs into as many high schools across the US as I can. And hopefully one day I'll make an organization out of it. Well, I shouldn't say hopefully, I should say, I know that one day I'll make an organization out of it and I will install film programs into as many high schools as I can, because filmmaking has changed my entire life. So if I can even benefit kids by just a little bit with my knowledge of filmmaking, then I'll have accomplished something pretty great in life.